There's nothing wrong with your video. Well, I should say there's nothing wrong with my video. It's dark on purpose. I'm using this to symbolize where a lot of people are in protecting themselves, especially teachers. Teachers who work with youth and they feel that the youth are violent and disrespectful. So they're in the dark. They don't know what to do. You know? And when I post to discussion boards or put up videos about how I think teachers should take martial arts lessons, people think it's funny. They think it's entertainment. They think it's comedy. I'm being serious. And I've told a couple teachers and the principal, after incidents have gone on at the schools where my children have been, they should take a martial arts class. They just humor me and say, oh, thank you for the suggestion, and just brush me off. Well, you know, what are you going to do? You complain, some of you complain about how the schools are not protecting you, how the children are so disrespectful. You know that the parents aren't going to change, and the schools aren't protecting you. And even if they do make changes, they can't always make changes fast enough, because they're going to have to get policies in place, they're going to have to put personnel in place to protect you. They're going to have to go through all of the bureaucratic red tape before something happens. So what are you going to do in the meantime, even if they do want to make a change? Are you going to just sit there and continue to let yourself be assaulted? Or are you going to take matters into your own hands? And what I really find comical, now what I find comical, is some people think that taking matters into your own hands is getting a gun. So let me get this straight. We're not talking about students shooting at you. Which training has been implemented and that's been taken into consideration, but that's a very rare instance. You want to go from not knowing anything at all to gun. So if a student jumps at you, you shoot him, right? Come on. There are different degrees of violence in self-defense situations. You shouldn't have to go from 0 to 100. A lot of times, for a lot of situations I've ever seen, recorded, or heard about, where a student attacks a teacher, if the teacher was at an intermediate level of understanding in the martial arts, which doesn't take that long to get, the teacher could have diffused the situation or could have protected themselves without going overboard. There was one thing that happened in one of my children's schools where the teacher hit the student with a stapler, I believe. The student came at the teacher with a stapler, and then the teacher just went off, got into a huge tussling match, and then starts beating the student over the head with a stapler, something like that. I think they both hit each other over the head, and this got completely out of hand. With some knowledge of some basic blocking and a few holds, holding the student down till the student calms down, and not trying to crush the student or choke the student out either. It's some basic moves done with some proficiency could have kept things stable until security came, but no. Now, what I find funny also is that one of the best principals I had growing up, he was at least a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He knew jiu-jitsu. And yet, I don't really recall him having to jiu-jitsu any students. I don't recall anybody stepping to him. They could have, and maybe I just don't know. I don't really recall him having a lot of problems with students in terms of violence. Again, they could have happened and I just don't know. But I think maybe him knowing how to defend himself gave him the confidence subconsciously to look for a more peaceful solution. When you know that if violence jumps off, I can handle it, you don't fear it and draw it to you. Maybe some of these people are getting violent with students, or they're provoking students to violence because they are afraid. They know that if things escalate, they can't handle it. So they try to intimidate the student to keep things from going to the physical. I've seen people do that with peers. Hold me back, man, hold me back. And they talk trash. And there are people who think that if they act like they can fight, that will convince people they can fight, even though they can't fight. So what style should you take? It doesn't really matter. Just take something. Of course, I recommend the styles that I teach. If you don't know what they are, look on my channel. I recommend taking both of those, the two main ones. And I would throw in the third minor one too, which is the third minor one is boxing. I would recommend throwing some of that in there too. But that doesn't mean that you have to throw a combination to the student's stomach and uppercut them to the chin. But the movements from boxing in the facility you get over your body, you could probably slip a few punches if a student threw them at you and not be hurt. Or if you're really good at boxing, like the guy that taught me how to box, you could just move, and the person trying to hit you is not going to be able to hit you. They're going to get tired. And don't tell me that that's impossible, because I've done that to a couple of people. A couple of times I've been attacked. I was stayed defensive. One guy didn't even touch, and he got tired. I didn't even touch him. The other one I technically had to touch because I had to use soft block, so that is technically contact. So that person, I didn't have to hurt that attacker either. Wait till he got tired, you know. So look, you teachers who want to remain in the dark about protecting yourself, you've got to realize something. The world is not going to protect you all the time. The security officers that you have at your school are not God, and they cannot be there all of the time. See, if you learn some self-defense, hopefully, if you ever have to engage with a student, if you're used to someone coming at you, you'll be able to stay calm enough to handle the situation. So that then when the security comes, he's going to have to grab you to stop you, just to break up the situation. You automatically stop, you automatically let go. And even though your emotions are going a million miles per hour, you may be able to wrestle enough self-control so that you can stop. And don't worry if the students know martial arts too, because the students that know martial arts aren't going to, if they've been taught right, that is, they're not going to attack a teacher. The students who will be able to kick your butt with whatever do, jitsu, or food that they know, they're not going to attack you because they have too much respect for authority. The ones you have to worry about attacking you usually are the worst fighters, because they have, you already know that they don't have good self-control if they're attacking a teacher in the first place. And a lot of people who are violent and really lack self-control, they don't make good martial arts students. They can't handle it. They don't stick around very long, and they don't learn very much. So if cost is an issue in terms of you taking martial arts lessons, you can go to a community center or to a YMCA. And you know, I don't have the time now, but there was a time, if you know somebody knows martial arts, if some of the people that I know who were teachers were saying, I need help, can you show me something, I'd have taken them all for free. I'm sure I'm not the only one who would do that. So don't let cost be an issue. There are places where you can train for $25 a month. Now, you might not be able to go every day, but you don't have time to go every day anyway, because you have to grade papers. I bet you could go once a week, though. Going once a week and taking some lessons is more than you got now. And who knows, if you volunteered your teaching services at some of these community centers, you may be able to take martial arts classes there for free, because I know at one center that I teach out of, I could take other instructors' classes for free if I want to. Some of the other exercise instructors' classes for free if I want. All you have to do is ask, work out a deal. They may let you, they may not. But, you know, it couldn't hurt to ask. What if you volunteer? What if you ask them to create a volunteer opportunity for you, and while you're volunteering in that class, you get to take some stuff and interact with the students and learn, you know. Do you have to get a black belt? I would suggest that you do. Because I guarantee you, once you get to the point where you're a black belt, it's going to be like riding a bike at that point. If something happens, you're going to at least remember all your beginner, intermediate level techniques. Okay, there's going to be stuff that your body can still do, even if you can't do split kicks or anything like that. There will still be things that your body can do, no matter how old you are. I've seen judokas that are in their 70s that can do stuff. And I've seen taekwondoans that are in their 70s that can still do basic moves, but their application of basic moves is very powerful. So they can protect themselves. So, you know, hey, you want to stay in the dark, you're choosing to stay in the dark. There's light there. If you feel like the schools can't protect you and the students are disrespectful, don't reach for the trigger. Reach for some knowledge. Take a martial arts class and learn how to protect yourself.